Well, hello people, and welcome back to part 33 of Thessia, our modded Australia-inspired CS1 build. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Really nice to be back in Thessia, as always, just big smiles on Egg's face every time we load this map at the minute. Thoroughly enjoying it. And in today's episode, we're heading back to the industrial and a powerhouse heartland of Thessia that we set up with the coal power plant a couple of episodes ago, to take inspiration from Fremantle Port in Western Australia near Perth, to build my first ever modded cargo container port, because of course Ilos never had one of these things. But a lot of fun, and Fremantle is fantastic inspiration for this today. So let's get stuck into our first ever modded container port build, shall we? So welcome back to very heavy industrial Thessia, everyone. I imagine we're going to be developing this area over probably 3 or 4 episodes, because at the port of Fremantle, which is serving as our inspiration today, is packed with different bits of inspiration. There's of course the main cargo yard, there also seems to be a bit of a military facility here, there's a smaller marina, a ton of cargo containers, little storage yards, but also looks to be some gas works. So there's a lot to build over here, okay? And it's going to be quite a lot of fun. But today we're going to start with the main cargo harbour itself, which is going to lie over here. So in Fremantle, the container ships are actually pulling into the inner harbour rather than being exposed to the ocean itself, which is quite interesting. And we can't do this here, but what we can do is actually draw in the ship pathway off of the main shipping route that comes through the Thessia Bay. We'll bring this, say, down into here or something, that should be okay. And now, hopefully, we have a couple of cargo harbours, we should be able to connect to this, so it'll only do it at a certain distance, won't it? So I guess maybe we could also bring it into the harbour a little bit more. That might help the cargo harbours be a bit happier. There we go. So I think we're going to use a combination of cargo hubs and cargo harbours, because there's about 5 or 6 of these big red cranes that knock about in Fremantle Harbour. So I reckon we can just use the vanilla assets to achieve that. Let's just sort of see how we're going to look if we're putting these alongside here. Now there is a train line running into Fremantle as well, which we'll do some stuff with, but of course we've also got this one here that would be nice to use as well. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and set our harbours down to the same height as the roads over here. Now if there's one thing I don't like about these cargo harbours is that the train has to elevate on a bridge, so I think we will just mould the land to allow it to run on land. We'll probably run a quay alongside that as well, I imagine. Some kind of extension of the harbour itself. So let's see how that works out. Let's grab our train line, and we want to be forcing down to ground here. Something like that isn't too bad. Could it actually even be possible to actually upgrade to bridge, at least for a couple of segments, and then once we've done that, we will use a key to kind of hide the fact that it is a bridge. Might be the best shout. So again, we're going to do lots of more like sort of like gas work yards around here. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, this is the whole point of looking at Google Earth. You know, you can find so much different inspiration just for a port like this. And big shout out to you guys as well for shouting out Fremantle Port. I did ask for port suggestions, and it was you guys that suggested Fremantle, so thank you for that. Yeah, so we'll have that one go there. Now, I'm not massively bothered about omnidirectionality for this port, because Thessia's train lines are already pretty busy with cargo, but we will link it in and just see how it begins to behave. Let's go for there for right now. So where this bridge is, this is where I want to try running that key. So let's grab a little bit of water structure. Grab this one here. We'll probably use network multi-tool for this. So let's do parallel mode. We'll go from here to here. And we just want to use our plus and minus keys to bring this as close as possible. Seems pretty good. Now hopefully that kind of hides the fact that it is a bridge, and we can just treat it as an extension of the harbour. I think it's the best way to go about that. It's not too bad, is it? I think we can certainly get away with it once it's been blended in a little more. And of course we'll be running keys around the rest of the harbour as well, so it's going to be blended in anyway. So I want to make sure we're lined up here as if we're kind of one cohesive port. Something like that should do, and I imagine we're going to end up using network multi-tool to unlock these networks and reposition them, but we'll sort of see what happens first. And I think just for the aesthetic we'll have one more. That's going to give us the visual of having like 5 aesthetic cargo cranes, isn't it? I think that's going to be my general configuration. Let's get this road here. So we are just using large industrial. We will use that same road again, but we'll just sort of lead it toward a different direction. We'll bring a road off of the container port so we know we'll snap into that angle. And we'll go for, say, that there. And then we'll hook this into that, and that should give us the start of our port configuration at least. And this can just go off and down there for right now. Cool. That completes our loop. It actually makes them functional now. Although the cargo ships that are coming into Thessia have an awful long way to come because they actually exit over here, so it should also take a little bit of the pressure off of Sentinel's port as well, which looks like it wants its graveyards emptier. I'm also very much looking forward to getting back into another little town build for Thessia because I feel like I've been involved in the downtown for so long. And we only really left it to go make Samara, which wasn't really a town, was more of a kind of hamlet village in the hills, wasn't it? But I'm thinking we're going to do kind of a Cairns-inspired build over this side, which will be a significantly larger town, similar to sort of Valkyrie and Sentinel size, if not a little bit larger than that. So we'll look forward to maybe spending 4 or 5 episodes out there at some point soon. Not too far away from that now, I don't think. Cool. So the next sort of distinctive visual we of course see in these enormous container ports is the cargo containers themselves, and of course we are playing with some of Avanya's warehouse storage containers, which are absolutely wonderful. So these function as warehouses, and as they fill up with their resource, they actually sort of stack up their containers higher and higher, which is honestly wonderful. I absolutely love these assets. Such a clever way to repurpose a bit of detail into a bit of functional storage for the city. So we've got a few of them, and they are linked down below in Thessia's asset collection, if you want to go check them out. And I think they're all pretty much the same size, so we'll get a good mix of them. Cool. So I'll have this here. Go ahead and position them so they're already connected to the road there. But I think certainly we want to be flipping them onto roads that come down off of this one, because there's a lot of cargo traffic here. We know that cities want industry isn't the most balanced thing in the world, so we'll try and help the traffic where we can. So everyone's connected there. That's not going to be too bad for me, I don't think. So in terms of what else I want to put out here, if we're going to have so many warehouses, it's going to make sense for the game to have a unique factory out here as well that can be constantly supplied by this sort of stuff. So the obvious choice would be to go for the industrial steel plant, but I almost think this is kind of too industrial really for what I'm after. There comes our first cargo train, by the way. Let's see how much this spits out. Interesting, won't it? Not that much, as it turns out. It's actually pretty quiet, which is fine. But yeah, I feel like the steel plant is just too industrial looking. It's not really the vibe I want for Fremantle Harbour. So let's bring this out. I think some of the more tame factories like electronics could possibly be a good shout here as well. Also the clothing factory, which I know we have already used the clothing factory in Sentinel already. What do you want to be stored here? Plastic, glass and metal. Okay. Yeah, but I think that's more the vibe I'm after for Thessia's harbour. Want to try and avoid the smokestacks if we can, if you know what I mean. Oh, there goes our first ship as well. Fabulous news. There it goes. Although you probably need to be forced into a one-way loop, don't you? I don't really want you coming back out this way. Well, we'll see how that progresses with traffic and whatnot. Yeah, this is what I was worried about. the AI loves these cargo harbours, so I don't want it to spam too many trains this way. I'll have to wait and see, because how much export function does Thessia actually have here? Valkyrie has train export. So does... yeah, Sentinel has one as well. Yeah, so it's only really Valkyrie and Sentinel that are giving export function to the city, so this one is going to get pretty busy. I guess there's one over here, wasn't there, by the power plant we did last episode. So I guess it's going to be okay. We'll see how it develops. It could get quite bad with traffic. So we'll set these up for commercial zone goods. We'll also get what this wanted as well, which was plastic, glass, and metals. Which then leads us down the rabbit hole of including some industry processing into part of this build as well. The plastic is going to come from the naphtha cracker plants, or the petrochemical plants, which then leads me down the rabbit hole of wanting to include some oil tank farms as well, because these are such a nice addition into our port, aren't they? It's going to allow us to store oil to process all that as well, which I'm almost certainly on board with. If we wanted to have a look at the other materials as well, we'd also want metal from the ore grinding mill, which doesn't really fit here. Which would mean that it's the rotary kiln plant as the other alternative, which is a real chungus, and then the fiberglass plant for the glass as well. And here comes a bunch of that goods storage now as well, even OE delivering to our commercial zone goods. Which is fine, it'd be nice to have a big supply of goods here that can be fed directly into downtown just across the bridge. But I also want a little bit of a rail yard flowing through here as well. So if we're going to go for, what's this? That's like 5 warehouses, isn't it? That should be enough because that pattern's going to repeat down here as well, so it's only going to get larger. Let's bring in the rail yard because again we can see one in Fremantle Harbour as well. That'd be tremendously cool actually if we could almost make it look as though the factory has a sort of private rail yard unloading bay. Which I think another warehouse is going to be good for this, using the railway connection. So which way do you want to be placed? Let's have a little explore of this concept. So it wants a road on this side, which we can certainly provide. Although we might have to fuse it into the building, because my idea here is to have kind of the warehouse fused onto the side of the factory so it's part of the building. But at the same time, the factory can also take kind of deliveries of goods via rail, right? That's what I sort of envision with this. We'll see how that turns out, shall we? It's going to be quite an experimental build today. I also think as well, you know, this is the first time I've ever built a modded port, because of course previously our other modded city, Ilos, didn't have any sea, so we didn't need to build a container port. But it does look like here, you know, maybe we could actually squeeze in this road on the back end of the factory where this gate is, so it's like there's a entrance into the factory itself, which then if we just anarchy through, and then that will provide road connection for the warehouse as well, for which I can then say let's store plastic here. I guess really because it's rail we should probably do, and again there is a little bit of oil production over by Sentinel's Harbour, isn't there? Sorry, I'm sort of like rediscovering Thessia today. Yeah, we did include a little bit of oil production over by petrochemicals, which I think would definitely open up a branch over by the downtown harbour today. Yeah, so we are producing a little bit of this, which is nice. So importing by rail would actually work because it'll be imported from Sentinel. So let's go for that then. We'll import plastic from Sentinel to here. We'll also bring this road out as well. Yeah, and let's also have a look at the fusing here too. I don't know if I want to take it totally fused in to get rid of the car parks that are on the side of it. That's kind of what I had in mind. Let's bring this out. Now, if we feed you, I would like it to run straight, glancing back to inspiration, which I could do because I can just delete one of these, because again they're going to be doubled up further down the line, so I suppose it's going to make sense for that as well. And then we can bring that straight across. Having a rail crossing here might be a bit dodgy, depends how busy that line's going to get I think. And then we want this to come straight out of here. How are we going to handle with the crossings there? Not overly well. We'll see if we can just recorrect these positions here so everyone's happy. That's a little bit better, isn't it? And probably that's a bit of a road guideline and a curve tool. We'll see that one through. Wonderful. Fantastic. That's not too bad. Why are you complaining of no road connection though? There we go. Just drawing an extra bit of road through it. That seems to help its cause. I wonder see if we can use multi-tool to unlock this little segment of rail here. Yes, we can indeed. Wonderful. God, that's such a great mod, isn't it? Love network multi-tool. Cool. That's pretty perfect for me now. So we grab these and we spin them around. We should be able to start filling this area with these little warehouse containers. Which again is going to look so cool once we can see trains running through this area as well, isn't it? Cool, so let's go ahead and get this pattern repeated all the way down the length of the port now, probably up to the edge of the factory. And then we can turn our attention towards some resource production as well. So here we go, where we are doing this, we've had a freight train from the warehouse with rail connection in Sentinel now drop off a little bit of plastic. So we're actually keeping the harbour supplied with mock-look plastics, which is really cool, isn't it? It's nice to see that train functionality kicking in for the industry side of things as well. So this whole area is really starting to come together now, isn't it? Just the aesthetic of having containers here makes a world of difference. We've also ran some service paint up as well. So we're going to put some ore stuff in here. So let's grab our... Oh, there you go. That's a fits and sits, isn't it? We have to put that there. Although we almost certainly need to bob that though. Let's get rid of those horrific vanilla trees. And we'll go for... I think I finished some palms actually by the container port. Let's go for some royal palms. We'll just outright get rid of the bushes, and then with the trees we'll go for some... Cool, I like that. We can get some nice fencing around this as well, I think. And of course this building itself is actually going to change as the area itself levels up. And not that it will get to too high level, I don't think, over here, but we'll still see. Oh, we've also noticed we've got ore over here as well, haven't we? Which does actually lead me down a very interesting path, which we'll talk about in a second, because I'm starting to get ahead of myself. It's always fun building something new with mods, you know. I never tried a container port before, and now my mind is beginning to run wild with the possibilities. So we can knock that back off the road a little bit, and I guess we can just surface paint down. I don't think that's too bad. Maybe even introduce a bit of car parking out the front of this as well, actually. We'll sort of see how it develops. Cool. So we'll have our building there, which now gives us the opportunity to place down some ore processing assets. So I was having a look at the rotary kilns. They're just massive, which is appropriate for a port, I suppose, but it's reintroducing that smokestack aesthetic, which I don't want over here. Like, we've got them over by the power plant, but I don't know, they are nice though, aren't they? They really do. They really do add quite a lot into a port aesthetic. We just go for one of them. It's the infrastructure that just really sells it to me, you know. We could also really kind of break up the shape of the port here as well by having this kind of jut out a little bit on the kind of the holding frame. So what I mean by that is if we were to probably spin it around so the kind of interior faces into the interior of the port, we'll have it about there, and then break that 4-lane industrial road underneath to wrap a smaller one around the back end of it. And then when we do bring in our key line in, not that this road's getting into use anyway, is it? But when we do bring in our key line in, it's really just gonna change up the shape of the port, isn't it, if we have that there? How do we feel about that, I wonder? Take a look at it from the downtown, shall we? I think a further perspective always provides a better opinion, I think. You can't really tell the smokestacks are there, can you, from over here when you're in the city? You kind of like sit by the harbour, can you really tell it's there? I'm looking under the bridge. I think I'm on board with it. I can't complain about it too much, I don't think. It's also going to give us significantly more processing as well for grinding metal out. So because we included a load of ore storage for our power plant build to give the aesthetic of a coal pile, and we've actually got a load of ore already stored directly nearby, so we don't need to include any of these assets, I don't think, even though they would be nice near the port. But I think what we will do is actually use the medium ore mine in some capacity around here to make it look as though it is actually kind of loading up ships with coal or kind of aggregate, just so there's like an animated crane by the port. I think is going to be quite cool. So we'll go ahead and do this. Our natural resources should be over here. So we're dragging some ore this way. We can also probably remove it from here as well because we're not going to be building out here. But I do like the kind of drier texture of the ore on this particular theme. So we'll leave it in for a little bit. And then again, when we come to draw in the rest of those keys during our detailing time lapse, we will be able to now have a moving crane. Which of course is going to help keep everything else supplied as well around here. And do you want to knock it over so it's there basically? I think so. I think we could possibly even double that up actually. If we wanted to explore the possibility. Let's bring this right up here. We will duplicate it with the old faithful move it. If we were to have you there. And then let's bring that road down there. A little bit of surface painter eventually. I'll actually just push that back onto the actual grid frame itself. And then we'll run that dirt texture between. Jesus, not like that though. That's way too much. There we go. And then that gives us kind of a boundary down this end then to run those keys as well. That's going to give us ore production, which is now going to go straight into the rotary kiln. I'd also like a fiberglass plant over here as well. And oh, you very nearly fit within one of those spaces, don't you? Well, that's fine though. I think we actually will just run the fiberglass plant next to the factory, almost to make it like so it's part of the factory, because we've got very similar fencing here, haven't we? If we can line these up to create a further fusing into the factory, which is going to be quite simple there, isn't it? Then I think we can get away with that as just generic port infrastructure, can't we? Already really starting to see those heavy industrial vibes come together. I always bang on about asset placement, you know, repurposing. You can be so creative with what's available in the kind of vanilla experience now, or at least with the vanilla assets anyway. And then one more asset I want to include is probably going to be the ore industry storage itself. These big red sheds are always welcome, and I think we can get a couple of them in here. I think we'll just go for the one actually. That's not going to be too bad there, I don't think, is it? I've noticed though that every single ship coming in wants to use the cargo hub, which is interesting, isn't it? Now, I wonder if that's because it has the train line on it and the AI will automatically prefer that over one that doesn't. Yeah, I hope that's going to change, because it'd be nice to see some other boats leave from this particular section. I hope so, anyway. And then I think within these concrete spaces here, we'll probably do some train detailing, because I want some rail yard stuff through this way. So if we're going to bring that off here, we'll have to find the best way to do it. I almost want to remove these roads for that. Are we able to connect into roads that the harbours are sat on here? Now the snapping nodes are either side for that one. Okay, we'll figure that out. Sounds like a job for detailing out to figure out what I'm going to do, but we'll do some like train car detailing through this way. That should be quite fun. But otherwise, guys, I feel like that gives us a good place now to go ahead and start the detailing time lapse with some spaces to fill here with props and decals and whatnot, and bring the whole quay wall around the harbour itself, and also prepare the rest of the harbour for future episodes. Then tidy it all up, trees, fencing, props, and lots of loveliness that we're also fond of. But really chunky build today, always fun to detail. Detail Thessia's container port, and then we'll be right back. Okay guys, let's have a little detailing review, shall we? So I'm immensely happy with how my first ever modded container port has turned out. It's a lot of fun. So we'll start at the entrance here where we've replaced the road with a toll booth, just as some classic security entrance vibes. Joining this road barrier, which is very kind of container porty, isn't it? Just as a bit of a road barrier against some overgrown space that the train line comes into. And then coming into the port we arrive at a car park which is pretty empty. Hopefully as more workers arrive in this space to fill the industry buildings, this will get a bit busier. Some light prop work next to a bit of industrial evolution, and really happy to have industrial evolution here. These assets are just so much better than vanilla industry, I think. Really nice and flexible, really like these. And then forklifts, crates, sheds, garbage, etc. all around here, trucks as well. Fenced in our main industry port building. Also allowed a little bit of green belt to come through here as well. It's a little bit, it's not really green belt, is it? It's just kind of overgrown, unused port space near the rail yard that I really like as well. There's trains coming through here now as well that are continually supplying the factory with plastic, which is really cool. Oil and rotary kiln storage here as well. Then we come into more industrial evolution. We can see now that all of these warehouses are starting to fill up, that they're actually filling up visually as well with the actual containers. Really love these assets from Avania. If you are missing them, I highly suggest you come and get them. They're really cool. One of my favourite assets on the workshop, I think, these. And they make an enormous difference, especially to container ports, I think, don't they? I hope you all agree. So I'm happy to have these in here. We just doubled up our ore storage over here as well, just so all the production assets over here can stay supplied. And I really like this view here as well. This is probably going to be our thumbnail today, I imagine. Lots of train yard detailing in and around the spare train line, and ended up just drawing this across the road. We're not actually snapped into the node here, just because I didn't really want sort of two nodes that close together. And of course it's only for aesthetics anyway. So various different bits of cargo train props that we've used before. We've also got some train cranes in here as well with more container detailing. A little bit of truck work over here with more industry assets, and some prop work in between these as well, just to help bring those tiny little spaces to life a little bit. And we've also got a recycling centre over here as well, so we can do a bit more garbage processing. That will help keep those two big waste disposal units fed over there as well. And I just really like it, right? This whole visual here is very appealing, and I really like how it all turned out. Further down we did a bit more bob work on the fusing of the train rail yard warehouse into the side of the factory, which turned out real nice. And then just some truck work. A couple of floodlights around as well, because all these big concrete spaces are pretty dark at night. So really happy to see these here. Trucks just pulled in, waiting to be loaded, or to have a truck come in and grab the trailer. And then this all sits nicely up against our cargo cranes here. Weirdly enough, actually, this cargo hub here is exporting to cargo harbour, which is a little weird, but it's more the aesthetic of the kind of cargo cranes that I'm after here as opposed to their functionality. There's plenty of goods coming and going from this port, as you can see, so it's nice to have a big kind of import hub for Thessia finally. And then the edge of the port rounds out with those two functional cranes, almost as if they are kind of ready to load aggregate onto a barge or something, should they ever want to pull up here and get loaded, then they can do. And of course it's always nice to have some animated cranes within the port itself, isn't it? Something we did in Newby Oaks Harbour, and Orchid Bays as well has this as well, doesn't it? But much more flexible in modded, of course. And then the whole container port is wrapped in vanilla key. I've kind of thought it was the most appropriate one. I just wanted that kind of blank concrete texture. The content creator ones are a little bit too kind of designed for me. So the whole complex ended up turning up really nicely, and some good industry functionality here as well with import and resource production. But otherwise, guys, that is going to do it for today, and let's thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, likes, comments and shares below really do help me out. Equally as much if you haven't enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a dislike as well. Let me know what you think of this. I don't think it's too bad for my first ever attempt at a modded container port. Like I said, our other modded city, and our first modded city, Ilos, didn't really have call for one of these because it was an inland city, there was no coastline. But a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it, and there's lots more inspiration to take from Fremantle for this part of the city. There's a little private marina, there's some kind of aggregate storage and like bulk storage over here as well in Fremantle. So as we need industry demand and import and export functionality, this part of Thessia will definitely continue to build out with these big, heavy industrial vibes, so we're looking forward to doing more work over here over the course of the series. Big shout out to all our patrons, with a special roll call to Felix Wilkinson. Thank you for all the support you guys drop on the channel. It makes these videos possible. And thank you for the continued support on Cities Skylines 1 as well. So I really appreciate you all. But otherwise, please do enjoy the cinematics, but I'll shut up and leave it there. Let's thank you all so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.